Hi, everybody. I'm John Ivison, a political columnist with National Post. Welcome to our video series. I'm joined by Andrew Balfour, who is the managing partner of Rubicon Strategies, a columnist for National News Watch, a Hill legend. Are there no beginnings to your talents? And by Marcella Munro, who is the owner operator of WPM Public Affairs and a woman who apparently wants to walk down the aisle and hear the magic words, "This is your captain speaking."
Please.
So, how is your March break going? Have you ever had a worse vacation?
I mean, I'm a singleton with no kids, John. So my March break usually consists of me avoiding travel at all costs because I take my travel when, parents and their kids aren't running around. It's not because I don't like kids. It's just, So this has actually been a pretty good March break.
And Andrew, you went to sunny Calgary, I hear.
Yes, I was in Alberta over the weekend, where it was beautiful.
This is certainly better than the March break where I went to Morocco and lost the passports.
Oh, no.
I
That one
remember
didn't go
that.
down very well.
That didn't go well for you.
Didn't go well. Anyway, this is better. Working. So today we're going to discuss Erin O'Toole and a party divided, why people feel they are politically homeless, and Jason Kenney's support for choice when it comes to vaccines for Albertans. So let's start with Erin O'Toole, the Conservative Convention. It starts today. It's going to be running over the weekend. What do we see from that? Marcella?
Well, it's starting even as we speak, I guess, tonight, Thursday night. I mean, he's got a massive task. Everyone said that in terms of, he's got a lot of unhappy social conservatives in the mix, and they probably will show up in droves this weekend. And yet he's got a general population of Canadians that want to see some more progressive-leaning politics to consider voting for him in a general election. So, I don't think your average Canadian watches a ton of this stuff. This is pretty much for party faithful in most cases, but he's going to get clipped. I was laughing a bit earlier because I realized that because of pandemic and it's all online, they're having Zoom hospitality suites.
Like we are.
And
That doesn't sound fun.
it doesn't sound fun, but here's the thing, and I know you have to register for most of them, but tell me some enterprising political opposition staffer hasn't found a way to, make sure they're monitoring all of that stuff. Like if I were the Conservatives right now, given the challenges they've had with eruptions in different parts of the country, I don't think I'd be having Zoom hospitality suites, but maybe that's just me. But they should go and do it because I think it will be highly entertaining when stuff comes
Yeah.
out.
Well, hopefully they're smart enough to disable the recording function on Zoom.
I
Doesn't
mean,
mean it can't be recorded with a phone or something, though.
Right.
yeah,
But
that is a recipe for disaster. Absolutely.
I mean, the only thing that they've succeeded in doing and not screwing this whole thing up is they managed to get all of the abortion stuff taken off of the like the agenda. I mean, that was going to hijack the whole thing, and you know, they don't seem to have gotten much right, but they got that one.
I think Erin O'Toole, to be fair to him, trying to control the social conservative wing of the party, which essentially makes them unelectable in other parts of the country. And also in trying to introduce a more mainstream environmental policy. These are smart things to do if you want to get elected. What I don't understand is why he decided to purge all of his opponents, except for people who work for Leslie Lewis. But Peter MacKay was essentially told not to run. He's not welcome at the convention. None of his people, his staffers, are working for the O'Toole Conservatives. Most of the people who had shadow cabinet positions are now demoted. I mean, surely this is like Chrétien Martin.
Well, and if rumors are true, and sometimes they are, and sometimes they aren't in Ottawa. But I mean, if O'Toole actually refused to sign Peter MacKay's nomination papers, that's kind of a fatal error, considering that he was one of the quote unquote founders of this new merged party.
Well, that's certainly the belief in the MacKay camp, and I don't think Peter's been as mad since that day in the potato patch.
I think the big mystery around O'Toole, though, isn't it, generally speaking, is that people can't quite figure him out in the sense that, he kind of tacked the social conservatives to get elected. Then he came in and seemed to be trying to move to address some of these questions you've outlined, John, that they do need better answers for, or they're not going to make headway into Ontario, Quebec for sure. But he still has similar advisors. Like, I was surprised Hamish Marshall's kind of been brought back. Do you know what I mean? So if you're not going to change...
I'm not sure how near the centre Hamish is, but...
Okay, but still, I mean, I guess my point is that it doesn't seem like he's getting different advice. And then there were those ridiculous tweets this week where they couldn't get their own attack line on Justin Trudeau straight. Like, that's just, I would expect better from a university political campaign. So...
Well, it's certainly, if you're saying the government is incompetent and we want to run the country, first of all, that you send out things like that, and secondly, that you are falling out internally, does not send a good message. So I think, O'Toole's speech on Friday night is going to be very important, and it's going to have to stress, let's get our act together.
Well, I mean, I've never seen, as a Liberal, I've never seen the Conservatives with so many unnamed sources. I mean, they're almost behaving like we were in opposition at this point in time.
So let's segue from that. I covered this McKay-O'Toole spat this week, and I then just posited the idea on Twitter that a lot of people seem to be saying they don't have a political home. They are politically homeless. They feel, the responses seem to suggest that many people feel that the Liberals have moved too far to the left, they're too woke, and the Conservatives are too socially conservative, and there's a large swathe of people in the middle of the spectrum who don't have a home. Does that resonate?
Well, in terms of the Liberals, I often say to buddies in other countries, look, they're the best social democratic federal government I've lived under, so I don't really have a ton of complaints. So you might have a point there. But I think, I have a few things to say about that. I think for sure there are Conservatives that I would have gone to university with, more of the old school red Tory conservative type, who have, I think, for a while felt like the Conservative Party of Canada was a tough place for them to hang out. So that part of it doesn't surprise me. And then I think, as I sort of touched on last week, that there are people like me that are social democrats because of labor stuff that feel like the NDP's too woke for me now. But that being said, I just want us to remember that there's only, a few 100,000, maybe a couple 100,000 people that actually sign up to a political party. Like, in some way, the vast majority of Canadians are politically homeless in the sense that they honestly decide, mostly election, who to vote for. And I think that's probably healthy.
And I don't think, whether people feel they have a home or not coming into this election, I don't think that really most people care about anything other than getting vaccinated. So if Justin Trudeau puts a needle in your arm, you're probably going to like it. If it means that you get to have a pseudo-normal life again, then you don't really care whether you have a home or not. You just know that you have an inoculation and life can go back normal. I don't think that you're going to spend too much time thinking about, oh my God, where's my political home? And I don't think even in a non-pandemic that's something that your average Canadian thinks about.
Right. It's not like we're short of political parties. We saw the People's Party set up last year, the Maverick Party setting up this year. So, and I do think that you're right on the vaccination front. As far as all the noise about the Conservative Party, at the end of the day, talking to some MPs, they're saying all people want to know is when am I going to get vaccinated, and nobody's really paying attention. And there was some good news on that. The front today. It looks like we'll get extra vaccine from the US, AstraZeneca vaccine from the US. 1.5 million doses, and that is going to be taken off the 20 million doses that we've contracted for, but it'll come much sooner. I think existentially, the threat to the government has gone from that, and maybe they will sail through to an election sometime in the spring or the fall, as we talked about last week.
Well, but I think too that, if you, just jumping back to what you were saying earlier about where the Conservatives grow, had you had Peter MacKay still there, you might have had a chance against Sean Fraser in that seat. But I think that the way Erin O'Toole's going, you're an Atlantic Canadian voter. Granted, there's only 32 seats in Atlantic Canada, but they're not socially conservative people outside of, a few ridings, 2 in New Brunswick and 1 in Nova Scotia. It's not, there's no place to grow there either.
So we mentioned vaccines and the fact that you were in Calgary, and Jason Kenney came out with a strange one last week where he said that Albertans should be able to choose the vaccine they want. And this came after Catholic bishops said they were upset that some AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson vaccine might have been derived from the cell of a fetus aborted 50 years ago.
52.
And Kenny now thinks that this is grounds for choosing, even though obviously the luxury of choice for vaccines is not really there right now. So who wants to have a stab at that, Marcella?
Well, he even went and said that his expectation was that when he went to get vaccinated, that he would have a choice. I mean, are any of the provincial systems designed for me to be able to be like, oh, I'm going to show up and I get this choice? I mean, the statement did go on further to say that, perhaps there would be delays in availability. So if tomorrow I'm contacted and I can get AstraZeneca, but I choose to have Pfizer, maybe I can't get it for a month. But that's not what your average person is going to hear from that clip.
He's only, I'm 50, so he's only, I think, a few years older than me, which means he won't be faced with this question for probably long enough that maybe he will get a choice. But imagine me following him and knowing him politically for 20 odd years, to hear him proclaiming his pro-choice beliefs at this point was a bit rich. Since he doesn't seem to like women having the choice, ironically, it's kind of a twisted issue that way. I think all joking aside, what's dangerous about this is the obvious, right? He's a leader of a government responsible for the health of the 4 or 5 million people that live in Alberta. And I think anything that adds to this idea that people will be hesitant to take whatever vaccine they're offered, when we know that every vaccine is going to prevent you from getting to the hospital or worse yet, death. I mean, even my own mother, who, she will be pretty quickly due for a vaccine. But this week, with all the talk about AstraZeneca, I mean, she started to get nervous that that's what she's going to be offered. She started saying to me, well, maybe I won't take it. And I had to have this conversation with her about that. That's not good, right? So if you're really concerned about the senior citizen population, especially, you don't want them having a doubt. You just want people to take what they're kind of offered right now.
It is very peculiar to Jason, I think. I mean, he is more concerned about the Catholic Church than maybe even getting elected. I remember back when he was defense minister and he was having a bit of a rough time and he was telling people, I'm going to leave politics and join the priesthood. So he is very respectful of the Catholic Church, but I agree with you, Marcella, that no provincial premier should be walking across the message that the good vaccine is the one you're offered.
Well, and let's state the obvious, that is a blatant pander to the base. And, Jason Kenney's in a world of trouble in Alberta right now. And he's, behind Rachel Notley in the polls, if you believe what you see. But
he's also had, they're just going to do a leadership review they've just announced, right?
Exactly.
Which wasn't in the deck.
But he is clearly, pandering to the base by saying, oh, social conservative Albertan, you will have a choice. You do not have to get this one made from a 52-year-old fetus. Like, it's, it doesn't seem like anyone's really putting a pin in that, but I think there's a point to be made there.
For sure.
Yeah, well, in the midst of a pandemic, if that's your main message plus attacking a Netflix cartoon, then I think you've got some problems.
Yeah, that kind of sums up his political fortunes at the moment. And we've summed up just about everybody else's political fortunes. So thanks for coming out again, and we'll do it all over again next week. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.